What's up? Hey, I'm sweating. I'm nervous right now because today we're watching back one of my old videos, but we're not just watching it, we're gonna correct it, we're gonna make it better, we're gonna break it down, we're gonna go through it all. I got this idea when I was scrolling through my YouTube and something caught my eye. I did not realize that a lot of you guys are still watching my old videos and you're watching them often, which is super cool, super great. I really appreciate it. It's like a blast from the past to the present. That's definitely how YouTube works. So I figured I would click into one of the videos to see what the hype was about. Like, you're not feeling a secondhand embarrassment that just washes over you. Ick, right? Like I felt icky watching that video, and it wasn't just the title, it wasn't just the thumbnail, both of which highly questionable. It was the fact that the advice that I gave in that video was completely off, completely not the advice that I would give on that topic present day. So here we are. I figured we'd make this video to update my stance on some things and make sure that you are getting the most current, best information from me. This is me beating up Abby from the past. Before we get into it, make sure to shoot me a thumbs up and check out my site at theteamplans.com. This is where you can learn more about my workout and nutrition plans, all of which have been developed with a nutritionist and registered dietitian. And you can learn more about the lifestyle I live now, right? So no calorie counting, no food off limits, just 4 workouts per week. What's up, and welcome. I'm actually gonna pause it right there. I can't get into this without first addressing the title. Fix your cellulite. We gotta sneeze. Fix your cellulite implies that there's something wrong with cellulite, which even though early in the video I say it's a perfectly normal thing, and even though I'm sure I justified at the time using this title because I'm like, well, this is what people are searching for, so I'm giving them what they're looking for, I think that was a bit naive, because even if somebody is searching for that and having this video out there that is titled in that way, it validates, it reinforces that that is a problem and that they actually need to fix it, that they need to find a solution for it, which I don't feel great about, and that's not really the angle I think I'd go on addressing this. The intro is really long, so I'm just gonna skip ahead here. Okay, so audio is bad, but the gist of what I was saying is that the appearance of your skin is gonna depend on what's going on beneath the outer layer, specifically how your fat and connective tissue interact. If your connective tissue is very tight, if it is pulled, if it's being stretched, then your fat is more likely to protrude through and create the dimpled appearance of cellulite. Versus if your connective tissue is lax, if it's not being stretched, or if it just has better elasticity, then your fat is less likely to protrude through, less likely to create the appearance of cellulite. The elasticity of your connective tissue is going to depend on everything from age to hormones to genetics, like all these different factors that are outside of your control. The system that I use for dealing with cellulite is pretty much the same regardless of your body type or how much body fat you have. I can't, but the strategy I recommended included overall fat loss, targeted muscle building, and then stubborn fat loss. The thing is, when women lose weight, they don't lose it uniformly. It usually comes off overall, then they lose fat from their upper body, and then the lower body fat is the last to go. While this is generally true, this is where the video starts to break down. In order to burn fat, you need to mobilize fatty acids. Now, fatty acids are locked inside of fat cells. Fat cells.
Yeah, they're definitely in there. I just don't know how he labeled them.
There's 2 types of locks that may be on your fat cells, alpha and beta. Important to understand is that beta receptors are much more responsive to fight or flight hormones. That means that these beta receptors are easier to unlock and require a lower stimulus to do so. And what provides a greater stimulus of fight or flight hormones? High intensity training. Is that true? It can be. HIIT definitely spikes your stress hormones, but so do other things like intermittent fasting, eating at a calorie deficit, reading the news. Like, HIIT is not the only way. So I'm going to explain what HIIT is, but that's kind of beside the point because none of this matters and none of this works unless you are at a calorie deficit, unless you are burning more calories than you are consuming. So what I wish I'd said is that losing fat may reduce the appearance of cellulite. If you would like to lose fat, you need to be at a calorie deficit, burning more calories than you're consuming. Oh, and by the way, a great way to burn more calories is to increase the intensity of your workouts, as I'm about to show you. Boom, simple, unproblematic, done. In the original video, I take you through a workout which at the time I considered high intensity. Now since then, my whole approach to training has changed. I'd say the biggest change is that instead of aiming to do like very focused workouts like this 6 to 7 days a week as part of a body part split, I now do just 4 full body workouts per week. One of the major benefits of full body training is that these workouts are more metabolically demanding, right? So you're burning more calories per session, you're getting more muscle building bang for your buck because you're doing a lot of big compound movements. Like that's the main focus, which is also another thing that I'd say I've really changed up a lot. I've changed up the types of exercises I'm doing. So this obviously isn't a full body workout, but we're gonna go through it. We're gonna look at the exercises. We're gonna see how we feel about them. I'm actually not sure what's going on here. It looks like I combined at least a couple exercises, which doesn't actually make them more effective. But I'm gonna guess that this was supposed to be some sort of glute activation, which if that's the case, you'd be better off just doing a simple activation exercise that isn't going to mentally or physically fatigue you before your workout. So something like a side line abduction would be great, somewhere in the 20 to 30 rep range because it is such a lightweight movement. And then I do a bird dog with pause to get the larger gluteus maximus firing. I say it in the video, but this exercise requires coordination. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but the more technically difficult an exercise is, the harder it's going to be to progress weight on, the harder it's going to be to get stronger on, and the harder it's going to be to stimulate muscle growth with, right? Not to mention, because the second half of the movement is basically an overhead press, the amount of weight you lift is going to be limited by the strength of your shoulders, which is kind of counterproductive because we are trying to hit our legs and glutes. Those are the muscle groups we want to be challenged. So instead, I would recommend doing a line leg press because it's hitting the same lower body muscle groups. It's a very stable exercise. There's not much coordination required. And so we can maintain that faster rep speed while just focusing on the weight and feeling this in our target muscles. No, I'm putting my foot down. Apparently, I wanted you to superset the last exercise with this exercise, which the thruster was already a high coordination exercise. Now we're adding instability into the mix, which, as a reminder, the more technically difficult an exercise is, the harder it's going to be to progress weight, the harder it's going to be to get stronger and build a muscle that you get from getting stronger. But also, when you superset, you are decreasing the amount of rest that you have between sets. So we're going to fatigue quicker, and fatigue plus exercises that require a lot of coordination, a lot of focus, a lot of balance, that's just asking for an injury. That's asking to not have a good time. But I would swap this for a single leg explosive hip thrust. If you try this out and it feels weird, or you're not feeling the right areas, or you're not confident doing it, I would recommend practicing your single leg bodyweight hip thrusts, okay? Make sure you can move through a full range of motion. You're not letting one hip droop or one side twist. You're moving through the full range of motion with good control, with a good squeeze at the top. And then when you can do 10 confident, beautiful reps on each side, I'd recommend trying this variation. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. What is a booty building burpee? Just because you're sweating or your heart rate is up does not mean that what you're doing is effective for building muscle. Okay, sweat and heart rate actually they have no direct impact on building muscle. So while this exercise may look like a good idea, may look like something hardcore to build your glutes, the reality is that the only parts of this movement that are targeting your glutes are here at the bottom of the squat and here during the abduction, the plank, and maybe you could make an argument for here when I squeeze my glutes at the top. These make up such a short portion of the range of motion that even if we could progress weight, even if we could get stronger, this exercise is nowhere near as effective as other lower body compound exercises. So I'd swap this for a 45-degree hyper. This is a completely different movement pattern, but one of the things I aim to do with every workout is include some variation of a squat type movement, a hip thrust type movement, and a deadlift type movement. So far we've checked off those first two, but we haven't done a deadlift type movement yet. So the 45-degree hyper, being hip dominant, meaning most of the movement is happening with my hips as the pivot point, and straighter leg, meaning my knees stay relatively straight. This makes sense here.
Unstable foot positioning plus instability of the ball plus band equals lots of gluteus medius engagement.
Technically, yes, but your gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, your side glute muscles, as compared to your gluteus maximus are so small. They're literally a fraction of the size, and they will have nowhere near the same visual impact that you will get from properly developing your glute max. Now, they're still important to train, but as long as you're including some single leg exercises in your routine, as we did with that single leg hip thrust, you're already going to be hitting them. We've covered all our bases, but if you want to add a finisher to your workout, one of my all-time absolute favorites is the barbell hip thrust 21s. The way that this works is each set is 21 reps. You do 7 partial reps for the lower half of the range of motion, 7 partial reps for the upper half of the range of motion, followed by 7 full range of motion reps, which at that point, your glutes are gonna be screaming, okay? But then you're done. So you don't have to do impossible workouts or high intensity everything in order to get results. If you have some cellulite, if you have some fat you want to lose, like, that's okay, that's your choice, that's your prerogative, but please be kind to yourself and please be honest with yourself, because if this is a goal that really matters to you, it's not going to happen overnight. Anything worth having is not going to happen overnight. And while I feel like we've made a ton of progress in the fitness space with debunking quick fixes and explaining why a lot of quick fix advice is complete bogus, on the flip side, I understand what it's like to feel desperate for change. At the time of filming this original video, I was desperate for change because you wouldn't know it. I don't see why you would. All of that outdoor gym footage was filmed at an outdoor gym in Florida in the middle of summer. Okay, if you've never been to Florida, it's basically like a sauna in the summer. And I was still training in a full-length zip-up black hoodie, very thick winter leggings, like high socks, the whole shabam, okay? I was not comfortable in my own skin. And that was something I had to work through. But I think a big reason for that was because I knew what to do. I just couldn't stick with it, which was crushing to my confidence that I couldn't even follow through for myself. So I searched and I searched online. I was looking for the secret, the YouTube video, the article, the one thing. It can't be that I'm not sticking to my diet. It can't be that I'm not sticking to my training. That's too simple, okay? There's got to be a scientific secret to this. And that is how we ended up with this video. I wanted there to be a secret. I wanted there to be something I was missing. I wanted to share that with anyone else who was going through the same thing too. And so it's not that the science in this video was necessarily wrong. It's that the emphasis was off. It's kind of like how the saying goes, one salad isn't going to make you fit. One video or one workout also isn't going to make you fit. And I feel like that was the big gap of understanding that video. That was the big mistake of this video because I feel like that was what it implied. I'm not completely hating on myself. I do have a lot of empathy for where I was at the time of that video. It was a huge transitional period in my life and I was just having trouble with it, right? But I feel like in seeing my own body change, I've gained so much more empathy for people of different body types and different starting points. And I feel like I've become less judgmental of how different people go about pursuing their fitness journeys, right? Change is not going to happen overnight. And so it really doesn't, like it literally does not matter if you are following the most scientifically ideal routine, unless you are a professional athlete, unless you are getting paid or competing based on your fitness. It could not matter less, all right? What matters is that you have a routine and that you have habits to maintain that routine long term. The secret is habits. You found it. Congratulations, all right? That is what's gonna get results. That's what's going to allow you to make this a lifestyle that lasts long term, okay? I feel like I need to give you a hug, especially if you've been around since that video that we looked at today. Like you've been around for a few years, you've weathered the YouTube storms with me, we'll call it that, right? But we're growing, we're still going, and that's what matters. All right, so I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.